All right, friends. Take two on my recording. I didn't have my microphone when I recorded earlier this morning, and it was quite obvious, and the sound was just terrible. So I posted somebody else's video to start the day. If you haven't seen that video, um, it's probably because this video is already posted and up and ready to go. So today we're going to be talking about fractions as division. Um, so we're going to be representing that with models and with numbers, expressions, numerical sentences, and standard form. The lesson's going to ask us for unit form. We're going to talk about it, but we're not really going to ask us to express it in that method. We're just going to try to show it through models, and then we're going to also show it through um, number expressions. Sorry, can't talk. All right, so let's get my face out of the way and let's get ahead and start thinking about this. Now, switch pages. And I would like us just to think about this expression first. 1 divided by 1. And if we're dividing this, I should actually start with, let's change this up. Let's do 2 divided by 2, not 1 divided by 1. 2 divided by 2. Well, we have 2 wholes. Our dividend says that's what we're starting with. We're starting with 2 wholes, and we're dividing it into our dividend, or the number of groups we want, 2 groups. So 2 divided by 2. To show this, we could show it as 2 wholes with the area models. So there's my 2 wholes. And if I wanted to divide these into 2 groups, well, each group would get just 1. So our answer would be just 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. Because if we divide 2 and we give each into equal groups, how many are in each equal group? Well, it's just 1 into each group, right? So let's go ahead and think about that with a different expression. Let's divide 1 divided by 2. So instead of having 2 wholes, we just have 1 whole. And I ask you, if I had 1 cookie and I was dividing it by 2 people, so wholes divided into the numbers of groups, how many cookies would each person get? Well, what would you have to do to that cookie? Well, you'd have to cut it in half. So, or cut it into parts so that you could give equal parts to people. And we're looking for 2 groups, so we'll just break it into 2 pieces. Well, we have 2 parts, but equally, each one will get 1 half. 1 half. Now, we're talking about fraction as division. So I want you to recognize that the 1 came over, the 2 came over, and all we're doing is we're renaming this fraction as, and the division sign actually came over, and that's this sign. So our 1 half really is saying 1 divided by 2. So we not only are we solving it, but we're representing it in a different way. So let's go ahead and think about what happens if we have more than 2 groups. Like, let's divide it into 1 divided by 3. Whoa, I hate when I keep the highlighter on, I'm sorry. Let's do 1 divided by 3. Okay, well, again, 1 whole. We're going to represent that 1 whole. Now we're dividing it into 3 groups. Now, before I do this, this is where I want to just sprinkle in some unit form talk. Oops, I don't want that question mark there. Come on, Mr. Briggs. Well, 1 whole, if we think about it into 3 pieces, well, 1 whole is really equal to 3/3. And if we did 3/3 divided by 3, we know that it should equal 1 piece, because 3 divided by 3 is 1. So it should be 1/3, or 1 divided by 3. So what we're going to be recognizing is this pattern that's happening with our division expressions and how we represent them with fractions. But can we also represent it in a model visually? Well, we have 1 whole. We got 3 groups that we're trying to divide it into. So let's go ahead and give it those 3 groups. And then we know that equally, 1 whole divided into 3 pieces is going to give you 1/3. Right? Great job. So we could keep that going if we kept dividing 1 divided by 4. Well, still one whole, right? Well, we're dividing it into 4 groups, so we want 4 pieces. And then each person is equally going to get how many of those pieces? Well, just 1/4 of them. Again, 1 divided by 4. So what happens when we have more than one whole, though? Like, let's think about 3 divided by 2. I know I'm moving quick, and I know that you guys can pause me at any time. And I know this is also a new concept, so don't be too hard on yourself if you're not understanding yet, because we're going to keep working hard until we get it. So that's our growth mindset magic words of yet and until. But let's really embrace that idea if you're struggling, because that's sometimes happens with new concepts. So we got 3 wholes, and we're dividing it into 2 groups. So sometimes it's a lot easier to think money or food. I have $3 and I'm splitting it between 2 people, or I have 3 cookies and I'm splitting it between 2 people. Sometimes it's just easier for your brain to recognize it in a real life scenario. So I've just represented my 3 wholes. I'm going to give myself a little bracket that says this was 3 different wholes, right? Now I'm dividing it into 2 groups. So my question to you would be, how are you going to do it? Well, when we had 1 cookie and we're dividing it into 2 people, we cut the pieces in halves. Well, we have 2 groups, so we can cut each piece in half. And we want 3 divided by 2 different groups, right? So I get 1, the other person gets 1. I get 1, the other person gets 1. I get 1, the other person gets 1. Now notice I kind of showed different patterns inside. I just did a squiggle with an X. Well, the squiggles are for one person, the X is for other people. Well, this would be 1/2, this would be 1/2, and this would be 1/2. Whoops, not 1/3, 1/2. Well, if we added those halves together, how many halves would I have? Well, I have 1/2 plus 1/2 plus 1/2. 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3, so it's 3 halves. Or if we think about it, 3 divided by 2. Kind of just pulled those numbers and showed it in a fraction. But we know that we don't like to leave fractions as fractions greater than a whole. So I want to rename that. I want to rename that as wholes. So if I take 2 halves out of that, I'm left with, get my 1 whole, I'm left with 1/2. So 3 halves is really 1.5. The question that I also have to ask, is that the only way to solve this problem? Now I'm going to redraw this model with 3 wholes. And I'm going to represent 3 wholes. Oops, that was a bad bracket. And the question I have to you is, did you need to divide each whole into halves? And let's think about it like this. If I had 3 single dollar bills and I had 2 people to split it between, should I turn in all of my dollar bills into quarters so that we can split it up evenly? Or is there a way to split it up easier? Well, yeah, we could divide the wholes first. Well, you get 1 whole, I get 1 whole, right? Well, that's even, but then there's 1 whole that's remaining that we need to split up between us. Well, we can say, well, let's pass out and evenly divide the wholes first, and then whatever pieces are left over, then we'll cut those ones into the groups. Well, we have 2 groups, so 1 goes for him and 1 goes for me. So I can see that I have 1 and 1/2. And that's exactly what we represented up in our sentence. So now that we've done that, we'll practice more on the problem set together, but let's go ahead and show one other style that they're going to ask us to do. They're going to ask us to show, can we represent 21 divided by 8 as a fraction? Finish this sentence is what they're going to say. And they're going to give you the fraction line. And they're going to say, represent that expression as a fraction. Well, it's saying 21 divided by 8. Well, there's 21, and the fraction line is actually saying the division, 21 divided by 8. Now, it's not asking you to take it any further, but Mr. Briggs likes to go a little bit further, and let's rename that as a mixed number. So if we count by our 8/8, how many whole numbers can we pull out? 8/8, 16/8, 24. So yeah, that's only 2 wholes. That would be 16, which would leave us with 5/8 left over. Okay. Well, what happens if they ask us to represent 5 divided by 9? What does that look like as a fraction? Well, it's 5 divided by 9. Okay, well, what if they do it the other way? What if they ask us to represent 9/4 as a division sentence, blank divided by blank? Well, that's when you read the fraction as 9 divided by 4, or 9 divided by 4. Okay, but there is one that might get a little challenging. Let me clear the page. Whoops, undo, clear the page. Let's think about this one. 1 2/8 equals what divided by what? Well, it's not as easy on this one where we can't just pull these numbers and fill in the blank. We actually have to think about 1 2/8 as only as a fraction. So let's convert the 1 whole as 8/8 and add it back to the 2/8, which should give us 10/8. Now that we have it as 10/8, we can now show it as 10 divided by 8. We can just pull it out of our fraction and just show it like that. Awesome. Let's go to our problem set and do some of these together. We are not doing page 2 of the problem set. We're going to do page 1, and then we're going to do page 3. So the first one's done for us, but let's read the directions real quick. Draw a picture to show the division. Write a division expression using unit form. Cross off the unit form. We're just going to write a division expression, and then express your answer as a fraction. The first one's partially done for you. So this is the part I don't need you to write. I just need to see that part of the fraction or the expression. Now it's asking us to take 1 whole and divide it by 5. Well, that would be 1, 2, 3, 4. Cuts makes fifths. Well, 1/5, 1 divided by 5. I get one of those 5 pieces, and that would be 1/5. Let me represent that in my model as well. And then I would make sure I come up here and write 1/5 to finish my expression. Well, let's keep moving down. I thought there was more to this page. I don't know why. Come on, Mr. Briggs. Is there really only 2 questions on this first page? No, there's more. I don't know why I can't get to the rest of them. I'll have to zoom out and try. 3 divided by 4. So there's 3 wholes. Now this is the way you can do this one, by dividing the wholes first and then dividing the last piece as fourths. Actually, you can't. This one, I got myself confused there. I had it backwards. We have to divide all of these into fourths to be able to work on this. Well, 3 divided by fourths, every 4th piece is mine. So that's 1 mine, that one's mine, and that one is mine. So that's 1/4 plus 1/4 plus 1/4, which is actually equal to 3/4. Once again, we can see we're pulling these numbers from our division sentence and representing in fractions, and we can go the other way as well. Let me zoom out and see why I can't get down to the bottom of this page. Best fit. There it is. One more problem underneath. Let's see if I can get to it now. 6 divided by 4. Now this is the one that I was kind of thinking about before. 6 wholes. If you want, you can divide the wholes first, or on this one, you could divide each whole into fourths, right? And that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to divide each into fourths, and then every 4th piece, I'm going to color in to represent me passing out 6 divided by 4. So here's 1 piece for me, 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 and 1 piece for me. So if I think about that, 1/4, each one of these represents as 1/4. I have 6 groups of those, so it's going to be equal to 6/4. Now let's take this a little further and represent it as a mixed number. Well, if I take 4/4 out, that's 1 whole. I'd be left with 2/4. So that would be 1 2/4. Right? Good job. All right, we're skipping page 2, but we're going to work on page 3. Now these little fraction lines, those are fraction lines in these sentences, and it's just asking us to fill in the blanks to make the number sentence true. It doesn't ask us to solve. So 2 divided by 3, well, it's 2/3. Or 2 divided by 3. 15 divided by 8, well, it's 15/8. 11 divided by 4, well, it's 11/4. Okay, now on the bottom, it's asking us to go from fraction into the sentence. Well, 3/2 is saying the same thing, and just read it in the fraction instead of just as a fraction. Read that fraction line as division. 3 divided by 2. 9/13 is 9 divided by 13. 1 1/3. This is where we have to convert everything to thirds. Well, 1 whole is 3/3. And then we have that other part, which is 1/3. Well, so that should equal 4/3, or 4 divided by 3, right? So now that we've renamed it as a fraction, we can just finish it off as 4 divided by 3. And then on our exit ticket, you can see the top part, you're drawing 2 pictures for the models, and the bottom part is just like what we just finished, where we're finishing those sentences. All right, good luck. Let me know if you need any help. Take a picture when you're completed. Good job.